One of the absolute best things about homeschooling our children is the freedom to truly embrace hands-on learning. We can move beyond textbooks and worksheets and dive headfirst into experiences that solidify concepts and spark genuine curiosity. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Getting our hands a little dirty and growing some knowledge, literally. I will inspire you to get in the dirt and explore the wonderful world of plants. I will show you how to integrate gardening into all of the different subjects. Hey, homeschool mom, I'm Erica Sagert on the Intentional Homeschooler podcast with more actionable steps and encouragement for your homeschooling journey so you can confidently and intentionally homeschool your children without sacrificing your sanity. Grab a pen and paper, your favorite cup of brew, and let's get started. For me, the connection between hands-on learning and the natural world goes way back. I have vivid memories as a child spending time with my mom and my grandparents. They had a wonderful large garden plot on their 1 acre at their house, and we shared it with them. So our yard was mostly shaded, and we had large evergreen trees, so it was very difficult to have any sort of garden. So Grandpa and Grandma let us use a little bit of their garden space, and thankfully we were just a few miles from their house, so my mom and I went over to their house and we planted and tended a little garden there. One of my favorite, probably most simple tasks was snapping the beans, the green beans, the garden candy that I call them now, those yummy fresh beans. Yeah, we would spend hours snapping those beans and then we would pressure can them so that we had beans for the winter time. I can still feel that satisfying snap as the fresh green beans broke in my little hands. I also remember that slightly fuzzy texture on the outside of the beans and just kind of that earthy smell that I experienced, and getting to the bottom of the bucket and how great that felt to be at the bottom of the bucket of beans. I love those memories in my childhood. I continued those memories with my kids too, and I still grow a garden today. It's hard work, but man, is it ever satisfying to take a little tiny seed and watch it grow into this huge plant with all of this fruit. There just isn't anything quite like it. So that simple act of snapping beans repeated over summers taught me so much without me even realizing it. I learned about the cycle of growth. I learned about the different parts of a plant and the satisfaction of contributing to something tangible. And that, my friends, is the magic of gardening, even on a small scale. So, if you've ever thought that gardening was out of reach because you don't have acres of land, or if the idea just simply feels overwhelming, I'm here to tell you that you can absolutely bring the wonders of the plant world into your homeschool. No sprawling garden required. If you have a large space for a garden, all the better. But I encourage you to even plant in the tiniest patch of dirt or simply a pot on your windowsill. Even that can blossom into incredible learning opportunities for your kids. Let's dig in. First, let's start with the benefits of gardening. So, why would you want to garden with your children, and why is it a good thing? Well, I mentioned a few, but there are other numerous benefits to talk about. So how about hands-on learning about nature, where food comes from? It also fosters responsibility and patience, as they care for plants, and also encourages for healthier eating habits through growing their own produce. It provides opportunities for physical activity, right? Get off those devices, get outside, dig around in the dirt, weed, get moving. Also, just sensory exploration. And also, it boosts their self-esteem as they see the results of their efforts. That's the great thing about gardening or just yard work in general. You can work for a short amount of time and you can reap the rewards of your work right away. You can see it right away. Some things take a long time to see, but gardening and yard work, you can see the results of your work almost instantly. All right, so now I want to get into some practical ideas for how you can integrate gardening into all of the main subjects that we cover in homeschooling. So first, let's talk about science, the most obvious connection. So science will be the most intuitive link to gardening, but we're going to go deeper than just plants grow. Okay, we're going to go deeper than just the science of it, but let's start with some science ideas. So first, in the realm of science, you can talk about life cycles. So from tiny seed to mature plant, gardening provides a tangible illustration of life cycles. So you can observe germination, seedling growth, flowering, and fruiting. So you could keep a plant journal with drawings and notes at each stage of growth. Think botany. So you could learn the parts of the plant: root, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits. You could talk about their functions and different plant classifications. You could dissect a flower or examine a leaf under a magnifying glass. And there you go. Boom. A real life science lesson. And depending on the age of your students, you can adjust accordingly. How about ecology? You could discuss the interconnectedness of living things. So talk about pollinators and beneficial insects versus pests and their role of decomposers in healthy soil. You could also do some with soil science, so explore different types of soil, the importance of nutrients, and how composting works. It would even be fun to do a small worm bin to watch them work that soil. It's a great project. Then experiments. So you could conduct simple experiments, like you could test the different soil types. You could test, there's little strips where you can test the acidity level of the soil. You could also observe how plants respond to varying amounts of light or water, or try to propagate plants from cuttings. All right, how about math? How can you integrate gardening and math? Well, there's lots of math applications. So first of all, measurement. So you can measure the seed spacing. So you look at the package, it will recommend how far away you should plant the seeds. So have those kiddos get out their measuring device. They can measure how far they're planting their seeds. They could measure the plant height, the pot diameters, the amount of water needed. So lots of different ways to measure. You could even have them create graphs to track plant growth over time. Now, counting and sorting. So they could count the seeds, the seedlings, leaves, the number of fruits harvested. You could do a graph of the harvesting that you're doing, and then fractions and ratios. So when mixing soil amendments or fertilizer, you can introduce fractions and ratios. Even dividing a harvest amongst family members can involve these concepts. What about, I've already kind of mentioned, but data collection and analysis. So they can create charts and graphs to track plant growth, the number of flowers that bloom, maybe the yield of the vegetables, and then they can analyze the data to see what conditions might have led to better results. And then geometry, so they can explore the shapes of leaves, flowers, and plant structures. They could find symmetry and patterns in nature. So all kinds of things in the math realm to do. All right. What about integrating language arts in your gardening? So, gardening can actually blossom into rich language arts activities as well. What about vocabulary building? So, of course, there's going to be new words related to plants and gardening tools, natural processes, all of that. So, keep a gardening glossary. So, just make a journal or find an inexpensive journal to keep that in. How about some descriptive writing? So, encourage the kids to describe the colors, textures, smells, and sounds of the garden. They could write poems or stories or just simply journal about what they are seeing and hearing and smelling. All of those things really foster some creativity in their writing. And then informational writing. So basically, like you could research different types of plants, you could look at their care requirements or the history of certain vegetables. So have them write a report or create informational posters about the different plants. And then, of course, reading, you'll explore gardening books, seed catalogs, and articles about plants and nature. And what about oral communication? So have them give a presentation to discuss the observations they've made, to ask questions, and to share their experiences with family members. They could even present their plants to you or other family members. Also, they're going to be learning following instructions. That's another really good language arts skill. Reading and following instructions on seed packets or plant care tags is a valuable skill. It's also important to have them write out instructions. I've recently heard that writing directions is one of the most difficult types of writing. So have them try their hand at that. All right, what about social studies? So obviously, gardening has deep roots in social studies, right? It kind of goes back to the beginning of time. So you could do some history of agriculture, so learn about how humans have cultivated plants throughout history, and also the development of farming techniques. What about the cultural significance of plants? So you could explore how different cultures used plants for food, medicine, clothing, and rituals. You could research traditional gardens from around the world. How about geography? Discuss where different plants originate and the climates they thrive in, and maybe figure out why do certain things grow in the tropics, whereas things like the tropical fruit, it's not going to just grow anywhere. So you could, have them do some research on that and figure out why things grow where they grow and why they don't grow where they don't grow. How about economics? So you could talk about the concept of supply and demand in relation to food production. And if you harvest vegetables, if you have enough, you could even discuss selling them or have them, work on a little side business and sell some of their vegetables to the neighbors. All right, what about art? So the garden is basically a living art studio, isn't it? I mean, it is beautiful. I just marvel when the flowers start coming out, when the trees start blossoming. It really is just an art studio. It's like going down to the art studio. Just walk around as you're driving, even looking at the different blossoms. It's quite amazing, this earth that God has created for us to enjoy. So you can have the kids draw and paint so they could sketch or paint the plants in the garden, focusing on details like leaf veins or flower petals. They could use leaves, flowers, and twigs to create collages, nature prints, or even natural dyes. Photography. Let your children take photos of the garden at different stages of growth. Also, you could have them learn how to arrange flowers. So learn the basics of creating beautiful flower arrangements. And then just general observational skills. So gardening kind of naturally enhances observation skills. And observation skills are critical for artistic expression. So they can practice those skills. So what do you do, though, if you don't have an area outside for a garden? I say be creative. You don't need much room. Even just growing a few things inside or on your balcony, it's a great activity. What about a community garden? I was taking my dog to the dog park yesterday, and there was a community garden nearby, and it was full of people. So, there's a community garden. You can rent a little plot of land, or maybe you have a friend who has some space, and you could do a garden with your friend. By viewing your small or large garden as a living laboratory and an art studio, you will find countless ways to bring your homeschool curriculum to life in a new and meaningful way. There you have it. I hope this episode has sparked some inspiration and shown you just how accessible and enriching gardening can be, no matter the size of your growing space. Remember, the most important thing isn't the quantity of plants that you can cultivate, but the quality of the experiences and the learning that blossoms alongside them. Whether you start with a single pot of basil on your windowsill, a small container garden on your balcony, sprouting some seeds in a jar, or that large garden that you've always wanted, you are offering your children incredible opportunities for hands-on learning, connection with nature, and the development of valuable life skills. Don't be afraid to experiment, to get a little dirt under your fingernails, and to learn alongside your children. Embrace the process, celebrate the small victories, and know that even in the simplest act of nurturing a seed, you are cultivating so much more than just a plant. You are nurturing curiosity, responsibility, and a lifelong appreciation for the wonders of the natural world. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you feel empowered to go forth and grow in whatever way you can. So, you want to homeschool your children, but you just don't know where to start. Or perhaps you're a seasoned homeschooler looking for some fresh perspectives. I've got something just for you. I'm hosting a special free info session where I will tackle the top 3 questions I hear from homeschoolers. How will homeschooling fit into my life? How do I know if I'm doing it right? And will my child be isolated? I'll dive deep into these concerns and offer practical strategies and insights. Plus, I'll have a dedicated Q&A session where you can get your specific questions answered. So, if you're ready to take the next step in your homeschooling journey, join me for my next free info session. You can find the sign up in the show notes. Don't miss out. I can't wait to see you there. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as right here, where a brand new episode will drop every other Thursday. Until next time, you've got this, Mom.